Welcome back to another featured illustrator interview. My name is Tamika Grooms, and I'm the Design and Illustration Manager for SCBWI. Every month, we select an Illustrator member to spotlight on the SCBWI website and social media pages to highlight the work that they're doing in the children's illustration market. This month's featured illustrator is Erin Richardson. Erin, thank you so much for being here with me today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Good, good, wonderful. Well, I'm so happy to have you here with me today. I've been watching your work for quite some time now. I believe you've probably entered some of our SCBWI Draw This.
I have tried and then I load myself up too much. I want to do
Okay,
all the things.
okay,
So
okay.
yeah.
For some reason, I thought that that's where became familiar with your work, but it may just be on the SCBWI Instagram page that I've seen it. But I know that I've been seeing it
Yeah.
quite some time.
Yeah. And you may have seen I won the annual calendar contest.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, for December.
In
Uh,
in your region?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that could be part of that too.
And tell us what region you're with.
Rocky Mountain.
Rocky Mountains.
So,
Okay. That's a great
mhm.
one. That's a great
Oh, love it. Love Colorado.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's learn a little bit more about your work. Tell us a little bit about how you got started on your journey with illustration, specifically children's book illustration, but share your art journey with us.
Okay. So basically where I started was when I was a baby, and my parents were very encouraging to me to be expressive, and I had access to lots of children's books, childcraft. My dad's an artist, and the encouraging environment that I grew up in was so helpful to me. I am a natural learner. I'm a self-driven learner, self-taught, and I observe everything. And I try to bring that element into what it is that I do. So fast forward to high school, I got a scholarship to art school. I thought that I knew what I was doing then. And I tried to replicate what I thought was good, and then got married, put that on hold, and did some things here and there, but it took a lifetime of figuring out this is what I am to do. But it was a little bit circuitous for me. And then let's see, it was about 3 years ago, I decided it was time for me to get real serious. So I just went back to basics, joined SVS Learn, developed my fundamentals from the storytelling perspective. And that's when I started to figure out this is more than just drawing pretty pictures. This is telling a story and helping illustrate emotion. And so that's been my focus, is finding that emotional piece and helping a story feel like an experience, not just looking at something cute. So that's been my effort lately, because I'm very conscientious about, the aesthetics and the framing and the feeling of things. So, yeah, I mean, any texture, any color, any emotion, I'm drawn to that.
Mhm. I
So,
can I can really see that come through in your work. And
thank
so it's
you.
always nice to hear people talk about their own work, so that I can see if what I saw is what they intended to
Oh,
create. And it definitely is.
thank you.
One of the things I really enjoyed about your work is the depth that you have. And we'll take a look at the work, but there's a lot of depth, there's texture, there's softness, there's crisp edges. So it's really interesting to see your work. Um,
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
we'll definitely share and scroll
Okay.
through your website too. So
Okay.
tell us a little bit about the materials that you use.
So for now, I've just been pretty much in Photoshop. I tried Rebel Pro. It's kind of an obscure platform, but it's nice because it teaches the traditional method with the digital tool of that. I'm not super excited about Rebel Pro because it's just so slow for me.
Mhm.
But I love the natural texture of watercolor. So along with Photoshop, I'm enrolled with Lee White Illustrations effortless watercolor class that's coming up, and traditional watercolor all the way. So it kind of puts me in a position where I'm having to really think through that storytelling aspect before I begin bringing forward those colors and those textures, because I take this to that level of emotion, and I have to teach myself to let myself get messy. You know,
Yeah.
it's I I overthink, and I have to pull myself back and not be an overthinker. But yeah, so being around other artists that can help share their technique and their method, and learning that, because I've made a decision. I don't know everything. So looking for the challenge, welcoming that challenge, being open and receptive to new ideas and new perspectives helps me get deeper, because the goal essentially is to tell that story and share the evolution of that character moving through that problem, or whatever it is. That's the essential piece for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's important. The main thing that we're here to do is to tell stories for younger readers and their families that are reading with them.
absolutely.
And sometimes we can lose sight of that when we're, in the throes of the creative process, or if we haven't looked deep enough into what the actual story is.
Exactly.
So thank you for
Exactly.
sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also like that you're still playing with the traditional
Oh,
media,
yeah.
even though you're, mostly you do digital. I'm hearing more and more that illustrators are moving back towards traditional materials
Yeah.
as I'm starting to talk with people. So, it's really interesting how those ebbs and flows
Yeah.
go. So,
Yeah. And, I've seen the conversation about AI, and I, I will always say human beats it.
mhm,
And I can spot AI looking at it. It's leaves you
bizarre.
with a knot in your stomach. You're like,
Yeah.
stand it. And
It's
what do I
really,
need to do to beat it? Stay ahead of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one thing is definitely create your own work,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
unique work instead of us, sometimes we could rely on AI. This is just me talking, so this is
Yeah.
an SCBWI statement, but we could rely on AI if we wanted to, but where is the creativity, the love, the joy, the messiness, and the surprises that
Yeah.
we might discover if we actually do it ourselves. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's the joy of watercolor. You don't know where
mm,
that water and that pigment's going to bloom. And it's a little scary because I tend to want to know overall what's going to happen, but I have to give myself room to make a mistake, because that's where some of those really beautiful moments happen.
mhm,
So,
yeah.
yeah, the joy of creating and letting myself be.
So tell me a little bit about what most inspires you. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but when you're looking for inspiration in the world, you sound like you're a person who's very observant. What are the things that inspire you most?
I love being around people. I have always been a people watcher. I love emotions in people, no matter what the emotion is. So I try to immerse myself in the natural way that I've always been, is paying attention to the interactions, how someone's looking when they're experiencing a certain emotion. What might they be feeling around weather or animals or just everyday life? And I love going into an old flea market or an old bookshop and listening to people, and might feel a little bit like, oh, she's watching me. Well, yeah. I'm because to me, the natural organic evolution of an environment will bring that forward for me. And I can't predict it always, but I don't plan sometimes how that will show up, but when it does, I write it down. And then when I'm going into a story, understanding that character, I look at the mood, I look at the color palette, I pay attention to the compositional angle, how to shift angle. I try to pretend like I'm a movie director, you know, so the story will evolve from that perspective. So if it's unstable, I'm going to shift the angle a little bit, or solid, if the emotion is solid, I try to remember, okay, it needs to be horizontal in that. Um, Sometimes though, it's just like fleshing things out by writing stuff down. So that's how I can find that space where I'm just writing and it's free flowing and I don't know everything always. So it takes a good amount of thumbnails to find that. When I hit it, here's the tricky part is to keep that sketch fresh, and then the paint. That's where I have to really concentrate because I can go way off in the weeds and I have to remember, no, 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 don't change too much because I like that fresh, clean, but a little bit messy, a little textured look. And I find that oftentimes when I get into the paint, I've strayed away. So I have to go back to the emotion, go back to the vibe, and then I pull all of my compositions and I stack them up together and then I see it. And I'm like, yeah, that's it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the way you talk about your own art.
Yeah.
It's calming, number one.
Oh,
So, but
thank
it's
you.
it's also I can also tell that it's almost like there's an art director within you that is working with the
Hmm.
artist, and the two of them are working together to kind of figure out what is the next step or what's the best direction for your artwork, for the story, for whatever you're creating. So I can tell that you're very mindful about not just creating, but evaluating whether or not your art is going in the direction that it needs to go, you know?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do. I put a lot of thought into these things and I consider that there might be a better way. And I'm not afraid to start over.
Mhm.
If something needs to be scrapped, I'll do it. I'm in for the reps.
Mhm.
I'll do something until it's right.
Yeah.
I will. And
Yeah.
I love a final piece that I can walk away and say, I'm proud of that. I did that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important. And
Thank you.
then the other reason why it's important, because if you don't self-evaluate, you'll
Yeah.
get to look at that book forever and you'll see all the mistakes that you could have gotten
You're like,
to
ah.
me of myself.
I love your work, by the way.
Oh, thank
I
you.
love your work. I mean, I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, I was on a virtual SCBWI conference and I got to talk with you.
Oh,
And that was, I know that you probably meet so many people all the time, but yeah, that
and
meant a
that
lot.
and that's probably where I also remember seeing your work from a while ago. It's funny, once you start running in the same circles of creative people, you see the same people over and over again. So yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
So, Erin, I really want to get into your artwork so that they can see.
Okay.
Um, and I really want to learn more about the piece that we have featured with the grandpa.
Oh
And
yeah.
I want to know the story behind that.
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen. Can you see your image on the
Oh,
screen?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Tell us a little bit about this photo. I mean, not this photo, but this illustration that you created.
So this photo actually resembles the very large living room that was at my grandpa's and grandma's house. And my memories of my grandpa are very, very rich. And so when I was at the SCBWI conference last year, I met an art director and she saw my portfolio from the calendar image that won. And she said, I would like to see more of that. And so I came right home, started writing down all of my memories, and instantly my grandpa used to play the accordion. And there were a lot of us grandkids that would just pile up in this massive living room. And we just danced and played and ran around, and we were a musical family. So he would sit there and play that accordion. And it was the most joyful, fun, rich, loving times of my life. So I tap into that vibe, and they had all this stuff in the house that was just so lovely. And I would just sit and I just, again, I'm observant and I just paid attention to all the textures and the light and all the fun that I felt. So it was just one of those things that I'm like, um, bring that forward. And so I started to pay attention. So this image, my grandpa looked a little different than this, but I wanted him to be more enigmatic in this image and so silly, but he was silly like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely illustration.
Thank you.
And it's nice to hear you talk about it because you mentioned earlier about how you go into bookstores and I forgot what the other thing was that you said, but what came to mind was like antique shops.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And so all to me, all of those things are characters. And so it's not just the characters, the animals, the people,
Right.
bugs, the monsters, not just the living animate things, but there's also the characters that are in the environment around us.
Yes.
And I think you really capture that precisely and just delightfully here
Thank you.
on the illustration. So can I show them the photo?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can you see the photo of you?
Yeah.
Tell us about this before we go to your website.
Okay. So this house, so lovely. And my grandparents, I mean, they they had this house. So as each kid came, you know, they would add on to it. And it just was wonderful. There was all these different places to go and hide, and it was like kind of a magical experience. Anyway, this living room spanned probably the entire length of the house, and there was just lots of room for all of us cousins to play in. And that's me. I'm 8, and that piano, I would plunk away at 2 songs that I knew and just played and played and played. And I don't play the piano specifically. I have other family members that do, but yeah, it's like if I can make music, I can make art, and it just fueled my inspiration. So I will put music on also to bring me back to that,
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely memory. It's a lovely
Thank
memory,
you.
and I'm impressed that you went back into your childhood and brought that into a portfolio piece.
Thank you.
Does it have a story yet?
So eventually it will.
Uh-huh.
I'm considering writing my own books,
Mhm.
and I do understand that there is a certain way to do that, and I'm all about the hook, the problem, the resolution, and looking at that. Absolutely, for sure. Because again, I think truthfully, I love a really good story that's not didactic. that's relatable for, why does this keep turning? Okay. So that that children are very intelligent,
Yeah.
and I respect that there's so many things that kids truly do want to know about.
Mhm.
And a good book and a good, not just really good illustrations, but a book that actually shows, "Oh, I've been feeling that way."
Mhm.
And when they're little, they get that.
Uh,
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So true, so true. I want to show them a little bit of your website, not too much,
Okay.
because I want them to go to the website.
Thank you.
Um, so let's hop on over there. All righty. So we have your website here, erinrichardsondesigns.com. And Children's Illustrator is what you have on here. And it's very clear from the beginning that this is what your portfolio website is about.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
really love these active images. Um, I'm just going to click through a few of them
Okay.
just so people can kind of see. I like that you've added these descriptions on the side. You talk about your materials, and they really show what you can do.
Thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you. I designed it myself. I'm a newbie to that, but fortunately I I had a critique done, David Hone, one of my favorites.
Mhm.
And he walked me through a full critique and broke it down for me, and he was helpful, very, very helpful. I have so much to still do. So yeah, this one is a self-directed project that I decided to put myself through, recreate a classic in my style. Uh, and it was there that I really started to understand the value of being consistent for each character from
Mm.
page to page, sticking with the same style without changing too much. And that I feel that each project I get better and better at that part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely piece. I love that. This was actually one of the ones that I looked at that I considered. There's so much texture in it. There's play with light. There's tenderness.
Oh,
There's a whole like you talked about these elements that you put in your artwork. This piece specifically captures all of those things. And it's simple. It's not a lot going on in the background, even though there's texture, but it's
yeah.
simple, it's sweet, but it has all of the compositional elements that make a difference too.
Thank you for that. I try to remember those things that actually I love when I look at other work,
Mhm.
as well as just everyday environments. So yeah, yeah.
So I really want to encourage everybody to go to your website because I'm not going to show you everything. You all need to hop on over to Erin's website. Erin, tell everybody where they can find your artwork. Well, yeah, do that first.
Um, so I'm obviously erinrichardson.designs.com, and my socials, I'm on Instagram, um, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Tried Kara for maybe 5 minutes, but I mean, there's only so much time in the day. I'd rather be creating good work. So I figured out just stay focused,
Yeah.
because I can be the shiny squirrel. Whoa, there's a squirrel. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. And then obviously I am looking for representation. So
Okay.
yeah,
Good
I'm
to know. Good to
searching.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I know that you do self-published projects as well as publishing projects.
Yes,
I hope that this does lead to an opportunity for you to find publication in other areas and possibly an agent as well.
thank you.
This is a good thing about being a part of SCBWI is that that network is there. So
Oh, it's
yeah.
been wonderful.
Mhm.
Absolutely wonderful. I mean, the best. I appreciate so much, so
Yeah.
much.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us, well, with me today, and for having this conversation to share with all of SCBWI and the publishing community.
Thank you.